Hello and welcome to Arnie's Short Stories. I hope you enjoy this story. I'm going to try and upload a new story each day. The Horrors Beneath the Pier. Holly Arnold tightened her wetsuit as the cold wind whipped off the sea. The Victorian Pier of Ryde stood behind her, its aging structure creaking ominously with each wave that struck its iron supports. It was a familiar landmark to the locals of the Isle of Wight, a beloved relic of the past. But to Holly, the pier was a curiosity wrapped in a shroud of dread, the site of her latest dive and the focus of her darkest obsession. Ever since she had read about the strange occurrences surrounding the pier, Holly had been unable to resist its pull. Fishermen spoke of shadowy figures beneath the waves, their nets snagging on unseen entities. Visitors swore they heard whispers emanating from the depths. Rumors of disappearances, swimmers dragged under, never to resurface, fueled her determination to uncover the truth. The pier's long history of accidents and structural collapses only added to the intrigue, leaving her with a gnawing sense that something unnatural was at work. Today, Holly wasn't diving alone. She was accompanied by Dr. Marcus Fenn, a marine biologist whose fascination with unexplored ecosystems matched her zeal for the supernatural. Their small inflatable boat bobbed precariously in the choppy waters as Holly checked her oxygen tank one last time. Marcus asked, his voice carrying a note of trepidation. He glanced at the turbulent water, his fingers nervously gripping the edge of the boat. Holly nodded. "We've come too far to back out now. If there's something down there, I'm going to find it," Marcus sighed. "I just hope we're not biting off more than we can chew." With a final glance at the pier, she slipped beneath the surface. The water was murky, the sun's rays barely penetrating the swirling silt. Holly's torch cut through the gloom, illuminating rusted chains, discarded bottles, and skeletal remains of fish that had long since perished. The pier's supports loomed like the columns of a submerged cathedral, encrusted with barnacles and seaweed that swayed like ghostly banners in the current. As they descended, Holly's unease grew. There was something oppressive about the water, as though it carried the weight of centuries. Her radio crackled to life. Marcus's voice was strained. He gestured toward one of the supports, where strange carvings had been etched into the iron. They were faint but unmistakable symbols that seemed to shift and writhe when viewed directly. The carvings extended further down, disappearing into the gloom below. Holly murmured. She reached out to touch the markings, but a sudden current pushed her back. Her torch beam wavered, and for a moment she thought she saw something move, a shadow that didn't belong. Careful. "This place gives me the creeps," a sound reached them then, low and guttural. Holly's blood ran cold. It wasn't the sound of the pier above. It was coming from below. Deeper they went, the water growing colder and darker. Holly's torch flickered as she spotted movement in the periphery of her vision. Shapes swam just beyond the light's reach, shapeless things with too many limbs and eyes that glinted like glass. The pressure around them seemed to intensify, as though the ocean itself was closing in. "Holly, we should turn back," Marcus said. He hovered close, his breathing rapid. But Holly was transfixed. Something glimmered ahead, drawing her like a moth to a flame. The seabed came into view, and with it, a horrifying sight. An ancient stone altar rested there, encrusted with coral and sea life. Around it, the remains of countless victims lay, scattered human skulls, rib cages, and shattered bones. At the altar's center was a pulsating mass, its surface slick and translucent, revealing writhing forms within. Marcus whispered, his voice barely audible. His hand shook as he gestured toward the altar. Before Holly could respond, the mass shifted, and tendrils of black ichor snaked outward. One latched onto Marcus's leg, dragging him toward the altar. He screamed, his voice a garbled cry through the radio. Holly acted on instinct, pulling her dive knife and slashing at the tendril. It recoiled with a hiss, releasing Marcus, but the movement stirred the mass. It began to rise, revealing a creature that defied comprehension, a nightmarish blend of cephalopod and leviathan, its body covered in bioluminescent runes that matched the markings on the pier. The creature's many eyes fixed on Holly, its intent clear. It was ancient, powerful, and angry. The pier wasn't just a structure, it was a seal, a prison for this eldritch horror. And now they had disturbed it. Holly screamed, pushing Marcus toward the surface. But the creature's tendrils lashed out, wrapping around her waist and pulling her closer. She struggled, her knife useless against its overwhelming strength. Marcus broke the surface, gasping for air. He screamed for help, waving at the boat where their equipment lay. The sea around him churned violently, its surface frothing with unnatural motion. But Holly didn't follow. Beneath the waves, Holly faced the creature's wrath. Its mind invaded hers, flooding her with visions of ancient rituals and the countless souls it had devoured. It spoke in a language older than time, promising her a fate worse than death. She saw glimpses of the pier being constructed over its prison, the laborers' unwitting role in sealing it away, and the blood sacrifices that had kept it dormant until now. Summoning every ounce of courage, Holly reached for the only weapon left, a flare gun strapped to her belt. She fired it into the creature's gaping maw. The water exploded with light and heat as the creature let out an ear-splitting roar. Its grip loosened, and Holly kicked free, swimming upward with all her strength. Holly broke the surface just as Marcus pulled her aboard. They stared at the water, which churned violently before growing eerily still. The creature was gone, for now. "Ah?" Marcus asked, his voice trembling. Holly didn't answer. Her gaze was fixed on the pier, its iron supports looming ominously above them. The carvings had disappeared, but she knew the truth. The creature wasn't destroyed. It was merely waiting, biding its time. As they sped back to shore, Holly made a silent vow. The pier's secrets wouldn't stay buried. But some horrors, she realized, were better left beneath the waves. She turned her thoughts to the research that awaited her, the ancient texts she had collected, the fragmented myths of sea gods and their imprisonments. This was only the beginning of her fight, and she would be ready when the time came. Thank you for listening. I hope you enjoyed this story. Please don't forget to like, and even better, like and subscribe. Thank you very much, and I hope you have had or have a great day.